Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of Glasp Talk. Today we are very excited to have Nathan Lance with us. So Nathan is a seasoned entrepreneur, investor, and a visionary in the tech industry. So he is a co-host of the Next Wave podcast with Matt Wolfe and HubSpot, where they dig into the exciting world of AI and emerging technologies. So Nathan is also the founder of Lore.com and a techno-optimist AI newsletter led by over 20,000 innovators and offering insights and forecasts on the transformative potential of AI. And with a rich background in startups, and including ventures like Binded, which is acquired by Pixsy, and also Gamify, Nathan has been at the forefront of innovation, advocating for a future powered by AI and technology. So today, we will explore Nathan's journey, his perspective on the intersection of AI and entrepreneurship, and his vision for leveraging technology to make the world a better place. So thank you for joining today, Nathan.
Yeah, thanks for that introduction. Hopefully I don't disappoint. That was an amazing introduction.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, thank you. Yeah. So yeah, first of all, we really love your newsletter, and also I love the name. Lore is
Yeah,
inspired by the accumulated knowledge and wisdom passed
yeah,
down, through generations, and we really resonate with the name. And
yeah.
but could you tell us a little bit more about, what is Lore and why did you start?
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, I mean, the name is kind of a long story. Like, I always loved the word lore. Like, I mean, my background really started like more in the game industry side of things. So I made money playing video games when I was a kid, and then later I had a startup called Game Streamer where we raised about $10 million and had a huge booth at E3 when I was like 19. So, and from there, I just I hung out with a lot of people in the game industry, and so it was always just loved the name. And then it's kind of crazy how it happened. I got the name lore.com because I was partnered with Barry Osborne, the producer of Lord of the Rings and The Matrix, and we were trying to build a crypto-funded movie studio. And which was totally unexpected to me. Like a friend, like I was involved in crypto pretty early on, and a mutual friend, I probably won't name him, but he's a pretty big investor in crypto. He connected us, and we spent about a year and a half trying to create a movie studio together. So like we went out to like I got to hang out on Disney movie sets out in New Zealand, and we had tons of meetings out in Hollywood, and I got pretty excited because like for me, The Matrix and Lord of the Rings, those are two of my favorite movies ever, and so I was like, hey, Lore would be a great name for like a new movie studio. And so I bought the domain personally. Then crypto happened. I mean, then COVID happened, and then when COVID happened, like all filming just like slowed down for like over a year, and so I held on to the name, and then AI started getting really exciting, and I was using GitHub Copilot, and started getting really excited, like seeing what GitHub Copilot could do, and decided like, well, I've got the name, I'm just gonna start writing about stuff I'm currently doing with AI, and I'll just do a newsletter. I probably won't keep it on lore.com, but that's kind of like how it happened. I didn't really have any plan of using lore.com for a newsletter, and that's kind of how it happened.
Wow, yeah, interesting story. And yeah, thanks for sharing the backstory.
Hmm.
And and with Raw.com, you focus
Hmm.
on techno-optimism, right?
Right.
And I read in your newsletters, but can you share some of the most exciting advancement in AI nowadays? And let's say you shared Snow version 4 is coming out, and also like AGI by 2025, so many interesting stuff. And then also
Yeah.
recently you released building up in 45 minutes, using Cursor AI represent really
Right.
interesting things are happening in AI. What
Right.
are the most exciting things? And
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, I've noticed a huge vibe shift in the last like even week or two in AI and technology. And this is probably kind of controversial, but a lot of it's actually driven by the fact that Donald Trump just won the election, right? Um, like in Silicon Valley, there's been a thing for like the last 10 years where there's pretty much only been, if you were on one side of politics, you could speak, and if you were on the other side, you couldn't say anything at all. So, and for people on the other side, it's felt very oppressive for the last decade now, and also a lot of the politics on the left had started to be kind of like anti-tech, right? And so I'm really excited that we have some, for as long as I can remember, people have wanted like smart people to be in the White House. They're like, why don't we have the smartest people from Silicon Valley in the White House? Why are they're just doing their own tech stuff and the government's just like wasting all of our money? Now that we have like Elon Musk, like, arguably one of the most incredible people that's ever existed or at least in modern day, in the White House, as well as a vice president who was a venture capitalist. Like this has never happened before, right? And so a lot of people are, really excited about what that's going to mean to have a government that's actually, trying to, on one side, trying to cut out waste, because like with like Doge, the new agency that Elon Musk is going to be running, the Department of Government Efficiency, they're trying to cut down U.S. spending by like $2 trillion, right? And the idea is not just to cut the spending, it's also then I'm sure some of that will be reinvested into innovation and technology and things to make America better, to compete with China. Because really that's what's going on, is like we're in a new, we're almost like in a new arms race right now, right? With AI, right? Because it's kind of like the reason that America has led for the last 20 years or even the last 100 years is all because of like being ahead in technology. So in the future, if America is not ahead of in technology, it will not be an American century, right? It'll be a Chinese century, and their politics and their views on things like freedom of speech and things like that will become the norm. And so it's exciting that we have somebody in the presidency that's pushing for America to win at AI, and realize how important that is. So I'm excited. In terms of AI itself, I'm highly optimistic. Like I've talked about this with Matt on our podcast, The Next Wave, recently, that a lot of people haven't properly updated their mental models yet about where AI is at. Like a lot of people are thinking like, oh, it only got a little bit better in the last year. And they're not realizing that, with models like O1 from OpenAI, that is not just an LLM, but there's a reasoning model as well, where it's actually thinking at inference time. That changes everything, because now it's not only about getting more data, right? You also can throw more compute at the models now, and they will continue to improve even without more data. And so now the only constraint is energy. And then now you've got, Donald Trump in office, and he's talking about ramping up energy production. So it's I'm highly optimistic, because like most people don't realize it's now the main restriction on the main thing holding back AI progress would be energy, and we have a president who is really pro more energy. So I'm highly optimistic on what's going to come.
Yeah, and I was so impressed by Elon Musk really made Dutch the department carbon efficiency, and that's
yeah. It was all based off of a joke, like even Dogecoin itself was a joke originally, right? I hung out with Jackson Palmer, the founder, when he first started it, or like a few months after he started it. He came out to San Francisco, and I was actually sharing an office in Adobe's office there. Like there was a little co-working space that I was part of, and then Jackson joined Adobe and was working there, so we hung out and had a beer. And it was funny to hear like that all started as a joke, and then now somehow that's become such a big cultural thing that somebody suggested on X, hey, you guys should name this Doge. And then now that's it's an actual thing. There's like it's a real government agency and everything. It's wild.
Yeah, that's so funny. So how about like the ASI, some article mentioned that ASI is coming in 1,000 days or within 1,000 days. And, as you mentioned, reasoning models, is getting better. And it's better. It's great. And then what's your thoughts on like AGI and ASI?
Yeah, I mean, actually, I had this conversation with Matt today. I don't know if our episode's been released yet, but we were kind of going back and forth on this. And, it seems like AGI, like let's say AGI is like AI being as smart as a human. And let's say maybe that's within the next 1 year to 3 years, right? That's kind of like a lot of people's estimates now. If that's true, well, then if you say ASI is like, okay, AI that's smarter than any human, well, that doesn't seem that hard to achieve if that is the definition, right? It's like, okay, if you increase the AI's IQ by like 10 points every year, it's going to get smarter than any human pretty quickly, whether we're talking about 3 years to 10 years, I would say probably 3 to 5. And so it's I don't think humans really know, like I could tell you my own thoughts of what that's going to mean, and like, but I think it's hard for humans to like fully process all, there's too many possible different outcomes that could come from that, right? But in general, I'm excited. I think that so many things are going to be happening at the same time, where we're going to be having AGI and robotics and all these things happening at the same time, that the world's going to look dramatically different in 10 years. So I actually spent a lot of time thinking about that, like, how do I raise my son? I've got an 11-year-old son here in Japan, born in San Francisco, and so I kind of think about how to raise him and how to position him the best for that new future, because he's 11. By the time he's 18, the world is going to look so different, right?
Yeah, interesting. So yeah, I think related to AI. So yeah, AI makes creation easier, right? So people can make code, people can make images, text, everything.
Yeah.
So I think yeah, you were running a company Binded about the copyright. So we were just curious about the copyright on AI. So will copyright exist? I mean, so will copyright exist? Because if making creation is easy, so what's the reason of having a copyright?
Right. Oh yeah, and I'll disclose, I did a copyright startup for 2 years, and I still don't fully understand copyright. Copyright's very complicated.
Yeah.
And and when we started Binded, we did not plan to be involved in copyright, actually, right? It was way more about what's the provenance, who created the image, right? And we use that whole kind of meme of I made this, and then you hand it off and it's no, I made this. It's what? you just took my thing. And so a lot of it was more about the attribution, right? And actually I spoke in Washington, DC about the future of copyright with some of the folks from Creative Commons, and always liked the Creative Commons people and thought their approach was interesting, but also incredibly complicated. So I'm not entirely sure. I don't think the current copyright rules make sense in the age of AI. But you still do have to figure out attribution of some sort and compensation of some sort, right? So, but I'm not sure what that looks like. I don't think anyone knows what that looks like, right? Because even with these AI models, some people are saying, well, they should be sharing all the money with the people that they train the data on. But it's I don't know. It's kind of all the art students, they go to museums to learn and get inspired by art. That's kind of what the models are doing, right? So if you become a famous artist because you went to art school and then you went to museums, what do you need to pay all the people from all the art you saw in the museum? Do you need to go back and pay them all? So this is all very complicated and uncharted territory. But I do feel when somebody directly copies an artist, though, there definitely should be attribution there. If I'm oh, I want Banksy's style or whatever, or whoever, there definitely should be some kind of compensation there because it's so direct. But I don't know. I think copyright, maybe this is something that'll get rewritten with the new administration. Maybe Doge will go out and totally change the copyright system, because when I went there, I tried to talk to them about ways that we could possibly modernize copyright, and they were it's just not going to happen. And I went to their office, and it looked out of a movie of 1950s or something, with a bunch of people. All the equipment was old, and everything just seemed old, and everything seemed slow, and it was just oh my god, yeah, there's no there's no way you're going to go in there and get them to just dramatically change things. There's no way.
I see. Yeah, totally makes sense. And then also, as a founder, especially founders based in, let's say, San Francisco, Silicon Valley, are mostly, I assume, mostly a techno-optimist, and but in to them, what ethical considerations should we keep in mind when we build in AI-based products? It's related to copyright maybe, but yeah, more a broader way, ethical considerations. Do you have some advice or tips?
So I'm not sure I understand the question. Can you try?
Oh yeah. So what kind of ethical considerations should entrepreneurs keep in mind? When we building.
Okay, got it.
Yeah, building AI related product.
Yeah, it's hard to know. I Silicon Valley is used to be always associated with pirates, right? I used to go on a cruise with my friends every year with a bunch of Silicon Valley CEOs, and we called it the pirate cruise, right? And we dressed up as pirates. it was a theme, and I do think there's that kind of element of kind of being kind of mischievous and on the edge of in the gray areas of breaking rules. If you think about startups like Uber, like there was no laws around being able to start something like Uber. And in fact, for a long time, people were like, oh, Uber is illegal. Like there is no way they're going to be shut down. This is not a real startup. And it's like, well, I don't know. They definitely had legal opinion that they could do it. And it was probably a gray area. So they knew that they could fight it in court. And then they got so big that they were able to fight it and win. So some people, like probably a year ago, you were hearing the same stuff in AI. You were hearing, oh, OpenAI and Claude and all this. Oh, this is just, it's a fad. And also it's all illegal. Everything they're doing with the models is training the models is illegal. So it's all going to be shut down. That was a common thing on people who were like anti-AI a year ago, was all this is going to be gone. It's all just, it's all illegal. And it's like, it's kind of wild. Cause like for me, it's like, obviously OpenAI and all these companies, partnering with Microsoft, throwing vast amounts of money at AI. There's no way they would do any of these things unless they privately already had legal opinions telling them that they could win these fights, if it went to court, right? Of course they did. Like they already knew that it's probably all a gray area. So I don't know. Like I think with the models, I think you should be pushing it as fast as you can. Like that's my personal opinion. Like we'll find the problems when they arise. When the problems arise, that's when maybe you need regulation and other things. But personally, this is like a golden age of tech where like this is in the history books of humanity, this is going to be like one of the main moments. It's like if you were talking to God, if you believe in God, you're talking to God, and he pulls up the book of humanity, right? This is going to be like one of the biggest chapters in all of humanity ever, and it's never going to happen again. So like, if you're in it, go all in, is my opinion. Go all in. Don't break any laws, but don't be scared about like, oh, how are the models trained or whatever. I think figure that stuff out later if it becomes a real problem.
Thanks. Yeah. Thank you for answering hard question, but
Yeah.
And also, you are running the podcast, right? The Next Wave podcast with Matt. And I'm curious, how did it happen, and how did you guys start it? And because that started like 6-7 months ago, right? And,
yeah. So I've never told this story before, so you guys are going to kind of get the exclusive on this. Actually, people have been asking me to do podcasts, and a lot of them were all on the East Coast in America, and so I was like, I'm in Japan now, and timing just doesn't work out. So you guys are getting to have me on here first and talk about it. So it's kind of a wild story. So like, I created a thread on Twitter probably a year and a half ago now that talked about who are the top people in AI to follow. And when I created that thread, a bunch of people got followed by Jeff Bezos because of it. So Matt Wolfe got followed by Jeff Bezos. Also Greg Eisenberg, who was our first guest on the podcast, he got followed by Jeff because of it. And then we hung out in Kyoto after that. And then after that, I think Matt had already seen some of my tweets and stuff and kind of knew about me and knew about my newsletter. Because even though my newsletter's not huge, we've got like about 23,000 subscribers right now, but we were a pretty early one. I think we started like right after Ben's Bite started. So he knew about me, and he had I'm not sure if he's ever disclosed this or not. I don't think it's like anything controversial to tell this, but he's got a pretty prominent Discord with a lot of amazing AI influencers and stuff in the Discord. And so basically he invited me into that chat room. I was like, holy crap, you've got like every single AI YouTuber and TikTok person and Instagram person, like they're all in here. And then I invited a bunch of my Silicon Valley friends in, like especially a bunch of people like YC people and stuff like that. And he's like, holy crap, you know this person, you know that person. And so that's kind of how the relationship started, was like, I just really respected his YouTube channel. I was watching it a lot. He was shocked by all the people that I knew once he started seeing me invite people to the room, to the chat room. And we kind of kept talking from there. We had a few phone calls, and we really hit it off. And so then we had explored doing a podcast with two other friends. I'm not sure if they're going to get angry at me for saying this, but one of them is Rowan Chung, who does the Rundown newsletter. The other one is Bill Wall, who's doing the TED AI podcast. So originally the four of us were going to do almost like a, all like the All In podcast, like four buddies talking. We were kind of going to do like the All In podcast for AI kind of thing, the four of us. But the rundown has just been blowing up. Like he's been so successful with his newsletter. I think he's like over 600K subscribers now or something like that. And he's a young guy, so he's really focused on that. And so he was not able to do it. And then Billowall started talking, I think, to the TED guys, and so he was kind of thinking about doing his own thing. And then Matt kind of hit me up, but a month or two later, I had already decided like, oh, this is not going to happen, And Matt was like, hey, why don't we do it? I'm like, me? I've never even done YouTube before. Like, I don't know. I've never done a podcast. I've never done any of this. Yeah. But he's like, no, I think you could do it. And I had talked to a few other people who told me similar things. Like there was this woman who was pretty popular in AI called Rachel Swan. She used to do a bunch of AI TikTok stuff. I talked to her and she's like, you have to be doing video, Nathan. You gotta do video. I'm like, okay.
But it's interesting because Matt has his own YouTube channel.
Yeah.
And you guys started a new one. So how do you separate the topics? If it's all about AI, do you post it to the Next Wave podcast? And if it's not related to AI, does he publish it to his own channel?
No, I mean, it's because his channel is mainly AI as well. Like I would say Matt's the most, like, I think if you look, if there's any AI news that comes out, like in terms of an individual creator, he's typically comes up number one on YouTube for any new AI news that came out. So he's really kind of cornered like the AI news niche on YouTube, right? He does other stuff too. He does some tutorials and things like that, or like commentary. But we just found like in terms of commentary, commenting on what's going on, that he had a lot more fun doing it with me than just talking to himself. Right. And so typically, like we're still figuring out like the focus. Like we've nailed a few different formats on the podcast that are working really well. Like we found that people really like when we share use cases. Like Matt shared how he used AI for his YouTube channel and also for his directory future tools, right? And I shared how I used AI to, go viral on Twitter and things like this, right? So people really like those like real world use cases. So we're kind of exploring doing more of those and having guests on who do those kind of episodes. Like you mentioned, we did the episode with Riley Brown last week, and we've known Riley for a while. He was in our Discord. Like most of the people we've been bringing on, that's kind of like the secret there. Most of them were in our Discord. And so we already had all the guests lined up before we ever started, which really helped. It was kind of like the secret weapon of the show, really. But Riley came on, and we used Cursor and some other things to like create an app in about 45 minutes together. And it was fun. We just did it together, brainstormed it on the show, and people really love that one. I think that video is currently our most popular. Like it came out a day ago, and it's got about 9,000 views or something like that. So it's doing quite well. Yeah, it's mainly AI news stuff, is on Matt's channel, and everything else, whether it's like interviewing people or more practical use cases or anything like that, is on our channel. But we do some news stuff as well. Like if there's anything huge, like GPT-5 comes out, Matt will probably do it on his YouTube channel. Then we'll probably tell people, hey, if you want to hear even more discussion about it, tune into the Next Wave podcast, and I'll be talking with, he'll be talking with Nathan Lands, blah, 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 that kind of thing. And so that's kind of how we do it. We do a lot of cross promotion, like our newsletters. That was kind of the thing HubSpot was surprised by. Like HubSpot did all this stuff to help promote the show, which has helped. But, quite frankly, like our newsletters and my presence on X and his presence on YouTube is really what's like driven the growth of the show.
Cool.
Yeah.
I'm personally interested in your use case of AI, how you use AI. You mentioned, you use AI for Twitter, X, to generate content. And how about, like a writing process? You write a newsletter, maybe you bookmark content, and how does the process work, and how do you use AI?
Yeah, and I probably should check out Glasp again. It's been a long time, so I haven't, I'd love to see like how it works now, because I remember I wrote about it like a year and a half ago in my newsletter. I think you guys reached out and said thank you or something like that. But right now, my process is, I would say it's kind of, I think there should be more AI involved probably. Like it's probably too primitive, to be quite honest with you. Like a lot of it is all on X. Like I find stuff on X that I think is interesting. I bookmark it. The bookmark system on X is horrendous. I hate it, and I wish I had some kind of better system, because it just drives me nuts, like how bad it is. But that's currently what I do. Is like I have a folder that like says podcast. I have a folder that says X. I have a folder that says YouTube. I have a folder that says newsletter. That's what I do. And then X would be like anything I want to write a thread about, like maybe like sometimes I do curation threads or things like that. Or if it's something I want to comment on, I will bookmark it. I used to use Notion. I just found that every time I got in Notion, I ended up spending more time designing the Notion than actually like using it. It's the kind of thing where like you like want the Notion to be perfect, and it's like you spend all this time in it, and you like wasted that time, right? So that's currently how I do it in terms of using AI on X. Like I've experimented with using AI like ChatGPT and stuff like that to help create thread hooks, and it does okay. I would say it's better as like an editor, or like it's like a second opinion, because like on X, the main way you go viral is just like on YouTube having like a good thumbnail and a title. On X, it's all about the hook, right? Like you can have like some horrible content underneath and then a great hook, and it'll quite frankly, you'll still go viral. And so I'll typically try to have like a custom GPT, and also have something on Claude, like a project where it's like I tell it, here are the kind of tweet hooks that I love, and here are the kinds that I hate, and don't use too many emojis. Don't use all the hashtags and all that. Just give it basic guidance, and I use it as an editor to give me like a second opinion. And I'll like copy and paste in different parts of a thread into it, like, hey, what do you think about this one? And does the whole logic flow properly? Does it logically make sense, the way I've ordered things? And so I use it a lot for like an editor like that. It's helped a lot. I've had a lot of tweets go like mega viral that I used AI to edit. Like I had one that got like 47 million views probably about a month ago, talking about how I went from Japan back to America with my wife on honeymoon, and just like some of the problems I saw in America, and like how I was kind of shocked by it. And I used AI to help me edit the entire thing.
I think I may have seen it. Yeah. By
Yeah,
the way,
you probably did. Like most people saw it. It's like
Yeah.
40, like the entire impressions was 100 million impressions.
Wow. Oh yeah, I think so. Yeah. And
Yeah.
but how do you use ChatGPT and Anthropic Claude? Do you have separate use case, or I'm curious about that part.
Yeah, it's kind of funny. I think Matt started using Claude more like after I showed him how great projects were. Now he's like all on the Claude train. But I still personally end up going back to ChatGPT, honestly. Like I just find that like I have a few custom GPTs I already use. I have one that I use for I go to the gym quite often. I use one for like tracking my gym stuff and my calories and protein. I have another custom GPT for my newsletter, another one for Twitter. Like I have all these different things that I use on ChatGPT that just kind of like has gotten me where I'm still in the habit of using it. And plus now I use the AI voice a lot. The advanced voice mode, I use it a lot. I use it like the other day. So I'm actually in the process of launching my own YouTube channel as well, or at least experimenting with it. And I used advanced voice mode just to brainstorm out everything. Like I pulled out a bunch of sticky notes. I'm like, here's different ideas I want to do for different videos. Let's brainstorm them and then like rank order them. Which ones would be the best ones, and then let's also then like brainstorm titles. And so I went through all of this just sitting here with advanced voice mode, and it was pretty good. It's like it's kind of amazing how good it's getting. So I still like ChatGPT because all the different things it can do. And also I've even started using it now. It's like I have I've talked about this on the podcast several times, but I have a kind of weird situation where so I have an 11-year-old son who's half Japanese. I met my ex-wife in San Francisco. We actually used to have 2 ramen restaurants in San Francisco that were pretty well known. And I got divorced, but now I'm out in Japan. And I've got remarried. And my new wife, she only speaks a little bit of English. And my Japanese is pretty bad. Like it's not, it's bad. It's like basically like a little kid level, right? And so we use AI for like any like deep conversations. Like we only have basic conversations in English or Japanese, or usually kind of mixing both, right? Like, what are we going to eat tonight? Or like, where are we going? Like basic stuff we can communicate without AI, but like any deep conversations, we've used AI for all of that. And specifically ChatGPT. And so now we started using it for AI voice. I do feel like the Japanese side of it's not as good as the English right now, which kind of is not great. But I'm looking forward to it getting better. But it is kind of awkward though, because then you got somebody else's voice in the room though, which is kind of odd. Right? Yeah.
And eventually your ChatGPT remembers and records your thoughts, so conversation, and automatically answers to your wife. So.
Oh yeah, no, how about that? She's not gonna like that. Yeah,
okay.
We've even had
Just
conversations.
kidding.
Yeah. I know. Yeah, well, maybe somebody will do that. But yeah, we've actually had some conversations. I'm like, okay, so robots are coming. Like, what kind of robots are you okay with? And she's like, okay, the grandma like robot in the house is okay, but not the like hot young woman robot. Like, okay, got it.
Yeah, but by the way, when did you move to Japan?
I moved to Kyoto a little over 2 years ago. So, I like during COVID, like actually I was pretty early on. I was pretty concerned about COVID, like maybe more than a lot of people actually. And then later I was less concerned than most people. It was like I had this really weird thing where right when I was thinking it was not as serious as I thought, everyone else was still totally freaking out about it. So it's kind of like the opposite of most people, where early on I was worried about it. Nobody thought it was a problem. And then once more data came in, I was like, oh, it's fine. And then people were still freaking out. And during that time period, I was pretty unhappy with the school system in San Francisco, quite frankly. Like seeing my son doing the online schooling was just horrible. Like I'm not even gonna go into it. It definitely gets political, but like I was very unhappy with what I saw. That's actually what made me a little bit more political, quite frankly, was that. And so I ended up sending my son with my ex-wife to Japan. We thought it was going to be temporary, but then we just decided to stay. And so I always loved Japan. When I was a kid, I was a huge gaming nerd. So like I used to like always like try to find the gaming magazines, and I would see pictures of Japanese gaming magazines. I always had all these dreams of going to Japan and stuff. So I'm pretty happy.
Oh yeah, good to hear.
And did you know Nintendo? I remember Nintendo is in Kyoto, right?
Yeah,
headquartered in Kyoto. But by the way, why did you choose Kyoto? Because I remember in case of Notion founders, moved to Kyoto and coded, walked and brainstormed and created Notion.
Well,
1.0 or something.
Yeah, I mean, so I grew up in a really small town. Most people don't realize this. Like I grew up in a 5,000 person town in Alabama, super small. Like survived a tornado when I was a kid, like trapped and everything. Like I had like a crazy, like out of a movie kind of life. And when I went to when I moved to I went to New York, and for me that was like, oh my God, it's way too big. I went to San Francisco. I'm like, oh, it's some parts of it are big, but some parts feel more relaxed. Like there's neighborhoods where you can still feel pretty relaxed, even though you're in a city. Before it got a little bit crazier and stuff. Hopefully that's changing. But so for me, I like cities that are not as crazy as like a New York or Tokyo. Like for me, I like visiting New York or Tokyo, but for me, it's just way too many people. And so I love that here in Kyoto, I'm in a neighborhood where it's just super chill, and like there's like a little market here, and there's all the grandmas and grandpas shopping, and and I walk by and we all nod at each other, and it's just like it reminds, like even though the culture is dramatically different, but how I grew up in Alabama was the same thing. Everybody we saw, we'd do our hand to each other every day, and like there was these little social norms of interaction every single day of like kind of mutual respect kind of thing. And so for me, even though I'm obviously not Japanese, I really enjoy that about the culture, because it still feels similar to how I grew up in Alabama. So yeah, for me, I like visiting Tokyo. I love living in Kyoto.
And I love seeing. Is it bonsai in your back?
No, it's that. Well, yeah, it's that style. Yes. I went. Yeah, so when we first started the podcast, I was in an old Kyoto house, and people loved the background. It was actually one of our first episodes with Greg Eisenberg that really blew up. I think it's got like 40,000 views or something. And and the background was all like really old Japanese style. Then I moved houses like a month later, and I was like, okay, what am I gonna do? Because like everybody loves the style, everyone's telling me how great it is. Now I'm moving, and so I'm in a brand new house now. But I tried to, as much as possible, to make it look similar, like old style Japanese. And but actually, this room is very simple. Like I did as much as possible to make it look nicer than it is. Yeah.
Good to see it. And also, like Reid Hoffman is like on like YouTube podcast, and his background is like Kyoto style or Japanese style, like cover, right? Yeah, I like to
Oh
see
yeah,
it.
in that sense, I was curious, because Sakana AI is now, based in Tokyo. I think, some company choose Tokyo or Japan as their like headquarters. Sometimes, do some business activities, such as Notion, not started, but like founders moved to Kyoto and do something and then came back to San Francisco. Why? I was always curious, what aspect of Japan or Kyoto, Tokyo attract people.
I think it's complicated to answer that. It's I think it's in the West, I think things have changed so much that people have this kind of like yearning for the old days or something like that. I don't know, there's some kind of weird cultural thing there where like the fact that Japan still has some of its culture intact. I think people enjoy seeing that. It's almost like time traveling or something in some way. And I think also there's like in terms of the culture too of like politeness and things like this, and being efficient and all these kind of things like that. There's some, and a lot of people grew up, whether they're watching anime or playing video games, like having some kind of connection to Japanese culture, right? So, just like how Japanese grew up watching American movies, I grew up playing Japanese video games, right? And so there's always some kind of cultural connection there, right? Yeah, but I do think, but I am kind of critical about the startup scene in Japan. So happy to talk about that. I've actually been asked about this a lot by like investor friends. So in my last startup, I raised money actually from Asahi Shimbun and Taizo-san. Taizo-san, his brother is Masayoshi-san of SoftBank, and Taizo became like a really good friend, as well as his right-hand man, Atsushi Taira, who Atsushi used to be the right-hand man for Masayoshi for many, many, many years. So they're like good friends of mine. And they've done a lot of trying to invest in Japanese startups and stuff like that, and trying to really help. And I think one issue is, there is a cultural issue, like, right, like in Japan it still is like really looked down upon to fail, right, or to do a startup and fail is like incredibly looked down upon. And there is more emphasis on I think safety in Japanese culture. So the fact that there is more emphasis on safety does mean that like startups often make less sense, right? Like it's way it's way safer to go get a corporate job and take that job. But but if you are pulling it off in Japan, that's great. Like there's no I'm not saying anything bad. Like if you're doing it, that's awesome. But yeah, I think doing a startup in Japan can be quite challenging.
Yeah.
I think, yeah.
But
So
yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so I think you have exited, so successfully exited many startups before. But so what is the motivation, or what is the purpose of keeping doing startup at this moment?
Yeah, well, I mean, like my two exits were not large. They were not. They were not like life-changing exits. Like, look, I made some decent money and I invested that money into like tech stocks and Bitcoin and Tesla and other stuff. So and Nvidia. So yeah, sure, I could like not work for sure. But for me, it's more about the moment that we're in. Like thinking about how, like, I think about. I mean, because definitely when I was younger, sure, I wanted to be like the next, like, Jeff Bezos or, the next Steve Jobs, or sure, like a lot of people who move out to San Francisco, that is a dream. And I did have that when I was younger. I wanted to be more successful than I have been, for sure. So I do still have a drive there. So maybe if I had exits for like $1 billion, maybe I would feel differently. But I think the main thing that drives me is, like I probably said off camera, like this is a historic moment that we're in right now, right? Like if you were to, whether you believe in God or not, if you imagine you were talking to God and you asked him like to show you the book of humanity, like all of humanity, show me the book, show me all the chapters, and right now, like with like the birth of AI, it would be one of the largest chapters ever. Like, it doesn't matter what else we do in the future. This is one of the largest chapters there ever will be. Right. And so thinking of it from that kind of perspective, I feel like honored that I'm alive right now, that like all the possible times I could be alive, I'm alive right now, during this period. And so anything I can do to have like a positive impact on that is important to me, and so even if I just have a small impact of like, okay, because of something I did, somebody created a new company, or because of something I did, somebody in the government did something slightly different that made things happen in a better way, and then we solved more diseases or made life better for people. That's the kind of stuff that motivates me. So that's that, like, pretty much that's why I do everything I do, is just of course more money's great, yeah, sure, there's a money motivator as well, but like the thing that gets me excited is thinking about like the important moment that we're in, and how I can make a positive impact.
Yeah, thank you.
I see.
And
Yeah.
through your career, so like entrepreneurship career, so you have been doing many different things, various things. Like started with like real estate, or
Yeah.
also you did gamification. So now you are in AI. So how do you decide what to work on?
Yeah, I treat life like a game, so it's like whatever's fun for me at the moment. Like, I mean, most people don't know this, but as far as I know, I coined the term gamify. I don't know, no one's like, I said it before on X, and like people tried to cancel me saying I made it up, but as far as I know, it's true. Like, I used to own the name Gamify, gamification. I owned all of this stuff before other people were using it, and it was just a natural extension of like my background. Like, I made money playing video games when I was a kid. I was one of the top players on the game EverQuest back in the day. I was like a top necromancer, and so that just really changed my perspective, because I always like, my parents were like struggling to get by, and at the same time I was like making money selling virtual swords online, right? So like $1,000 a pop, when I was 15. So that dramatically changed my perspective on things, and so I've always looked at life as kind of like a game. Take it seriously, but also try to have fun. Like, because look, maybe after we die there's heaven, maybe there's nothing, maybe we get reincarnated, who knows. But while I'm here, try to have as much fun as possible, and hopefully have an impact as well. And so I think a good life is where you get to explore different things that interest you, right? Like, even the Hollywood thing, that didn't work out, but I spent a year and a half on it. And if you would have told me when I was 15 that I was going to get to hang out with Barry Osborne and become good friends with him and get to go on movie sets, I even got to sit in a director's chair, like not as a director, but just got to sit in a chair for a day. If you told me that when I was 15, I would have thought you're crazy. And so for me, all of these experiences, they add to the things I can do. Like, if I do something new, I have unique perspectives that other people do not have, because of the unique combination of experiences and skills. Whereas if somebody was focused on just one thing, I think they would have a more closed view of something. So I think it's actually, for younger people listening, I think that's a good thing, is like, if you're super interested in some industry that other people don't think is cool right now, if you think it's cool, you think it's interesting, go do it. Just go do it. And if it doesn't work out, you will gain experiences and skills in that process that will help you later in life.
Totally makes sense. Yeah. And also, I'm curious about your investor, perspective, investor aspect, because you are helping, like and serving venture partner at several like a VC or like a Spark Labs group and so on. So
yeah, so that's a relatively new thing. I'll be quite transparent. So like for a long time, I've been kind of interested in investing in startups. But I haven't had like a tremendous amount of like liquid capital, right? Like, mostly I've invested in tech stocks, public tech stocks, to be quite honest with you. And I've always thought about it because I have a lot of successful angel investor friends, I have a lot of VC friends from all my time in Silicon Valley. And so I've always thought about getting more involved in venture, and I still am kind of figuring out how involved I want to get. That's what I'm currently debating. Do I go more into podcasting, which I never expected to be doing. Like, if you told me 5 years ago I'd be doing podcasting, I would tell you we're nuts. So there's no way I'm doing a podcast, right? Or am I going to be doing more venture stuff? Like, where can I have the most fun and the most impact? It's kind of like how I look at it. And so with I'm helping as a venture partner for AIM.X, which is like, it's basically an incubator and a fund in collaboration. I'm not sure if they're calling it in collaboration with the Saudi government, but it's definitely in collaboration with different parts of the Saudi government are involved in funding it. And it's not investing just in Saudi; it's investing all throughout the world into AI. And for me, it's honestly the easiest way. I get to mentor 1 or 2 startups. Like I'm mentoring one of the startups called Viral, which does like really cool stuff around AI for video analytics and stuff like this that I'm mentoring. And so it's kind of a fun way to like see what's happening in AI and also kind of dip my toe more in the investing side as a venture partner.
Interesting. Yeah, I was always curious about it. And have you seen any trends from talking to founders or like
I think it's I think investing in AI is quite challenging right now. Like the opportunities are huge, but also things are changing so much. It's hard to know where to invest, right? Like everyone's like looking for like, okay, Cursor is a great example. Everyone wanted to invest in Cursor. It's like, okay, well, where's the next Cursor? Like where you've applied AI to some new industry and it's super practical and useful. Like everyone's looking for those startups and they're quite hard to find. And so I think people don't know where to invest. It's like, okay, well, the window for investing in like an open AI competitor is definitely gone. like, you've already got, open AI, you've got Anthropic, you got Google, you got Elon Musk now. Investing in the foundational models seems kind of crazy. So everybody's trying to figure out where the opportunities are. I think some of the opportunities won't be venture scale. I think that's kind of the challenging thing. I think venture is probably going to change where you will probably have more and more, and venture capitalist friends probably won't like me saying this, but you'll probably have more and more startups that don't need a lot of capital. You'll probably have more and more startups that you could have 1 to 3 people operate the companies and not raise a ton of capital. And there's been the whole movement towards like multipreneurship or solopreneurship or whatever, where people like a solopreneurship is like single person business. Multipreneurship is like what my buddy Greg Eisenberg talks about, where it's like, okay, maybe you own a few companies with partners, and then you're kind of like the owner of all of them, kind of thing. But you're not raising venture capital. But people typically, just because it's easier to go viral, they typically pick one side or the other. Like, oh, you have to go venture capital. Venture capital is the best, and all these other people are just like losers, like doing small little companies. Or all the other people are like, oh, you got to do your own company. You can't take any venture capital because then you're just kind of selling out and like it's not worth it and all this. Like, there's good parts about both, right? And if you're trying to go after a market where it's kind of winner takes all and you need to get there as fast as possible, you should do venture, right? But there's also probably gonna be more middle ground too, where there's gonna be a lot of companies where it might make sense to raise venture capital like one time and then never raise it again, right? Like if you can go and raise $1 million and you never need more money after that because you were able to be so efficient with AI that you could get cash flow positive and not need the money. I think you're going to see more and more companies like that. And so the way that venture funds get structured may have to change in the future because of that. So I think all the VCs, they're not really talking about that publicly a lot, but I think in the next like 2 or 3 years, you'll see that become a major discussion point is like, do the VC models have to change in some way?
Yeah, that's an interesting part. Yeah, I'm really interested in it. Yeah. Nowadays, AI is trendy. VCs are raising a lot of money from LP, but I don't know where to. I know they are investing, many money, to startups. But yeah, as you mentioned, I think the raised ones then grow by themselves. I think it's a great way. And if so, investors don't know where to invest in, right? So where the money go, and I was always curious.
Right. Which I mean, VC is still a great thing. Like no matter what, like people talk about when VC money gets wasted, so stuff like that. It's like, well, I don't know. Like no matter what, like the VC funds go towards progress and making, improving technology, right? So like even for the technology startups that don't work, you're still learning things, and the teams are building skills, and then they might go off and do another startup that's super successful. So I've never understood the people who are super, super critical of VC, because I think it's a net positive for society.
I think it's a different topic, but so yeah, I think SaaS is a trendy topic, or was a trendy topic in Silicon Valley, right? So do you
Yeah.
have any thought around this?
Oh yeah, SaaS is dead.
Oh, SaaS is it? Okay, yeah, easy answer. Thank you.
Next,
Yeah,
no,
yeah.
and I guess heck, HubSpot's kind of SaaS, right? So, gotta be careful what I say. But I do think that any very simplistic SaaS that's not super ingrained into companies, that's easy to replace, yeah, those could be in trouble, especially because it's going to get easier. You think about things like V0 from Vercel or the Replit AI agent or all these. Like when these get better, you're going to be able, or like Bolt, when these get better, you're going to be able to like take screenshots of SaaS apps. If they're very simplistic, you'll be able to take screenshots of SaaS apps and just copy them, clone them. And then let's say you're someone like me who has some distribution. That's a huge unfair advantage. Like, I don't think I'd want to do that because I think it's just so evil. but it is kind of a pirate thing to do, right? Just go out there and copy a SaaS and like apply more distribution power to it, and then win the market. So I think you'll see that. So like distribution is going to be more important than ever. I mean, heck, that is one reason we partner with HubSpot, to be quite frank with you. Like having that, like the collaboration with like a major company that has major distribution is very important in my opinion. And it's going to be more important in the future. You'll like have like whether it's a brand that has distribution or individuals, like distribution is going to matter more for SaaS in the future. So I think you'll see more and more founders get involved in doing YouTube, more involved on X, things like that, because they'll realize like, oh yeah, if you have distribution, not only is your startup more have a higher chance of success, but also you can try more things. It's very easy to try something when you have an audience, and if it doesn't work, who cares? People forget like a week later. So, yeah.
Yeah, and I remember that the talk with Greg Eidenberg, he mentioned about you gotta build a tool, but you need to have a distribution channel, and that totally makes sense. And
yeah,
I really like it. And also I think that the person who realized it, like Elon Musk, bought Twitter X, and he got a really great distribution channel.
I mean, he's been doing it. Has been doing it for a long time. Who else has been doing it for a long time? Donald Trump. Donald Trump was in movies when I was a kid. He's in like Home Alone 2, and it's like, and he was on the news all the time. He always found some way to be in the news. And that was like how we used to do it back in the day. That was like the old, before Twitter, there was like the TV news, and he was playing the TV news game by saying outrageous things that they'd have to talk about, and you get free marketing. And so, it is interesting that Elon Musk has like mastered that game and like realized before other people, like distribution matters so much. And and so I think more founders are going to start to realize that.
I see. But do you see any like founders or like startups are really good at like distribution? So maybe like collaborating on YouTube or collaborating with like major distributors, big companies are like one of the ways to do it. But any like hacking? Oh yeah, with AI.
It's hard. So I'm on one side I'm saying that distribution is super important, but on the other side, you can see like pretty bad examples as well, like especially like YouTube influencers who start companies like what was the Snackables one or whatever they're calling it, Feastables, and they got mold on the food or whatever. So they're definitely bad examples of like people who have no business experience getting involved in businesses that obviously I wouldn't suggest that, but I guess I was more commenting on like a longer term trend that I think we will see. Like Elon Musk is a better example of somebody who actually knows how to do companies, but also realizes that like, hey, you can spend 30 minutes a day tweeting and sharing your thoughts, and that you'll get the distribution just from that.
Yeah, thank you.
And so before ending, but I have several questions, but about one is about future, what's the long-term vision for lore.com, what you do now, and also the podcast you do. I'm curious about what do you see in 5 years, next 5 years, 10 years, because AGI coming soon, ASI maybe in a few years. How does your lore.com fit in?
I'm still figuring that out. I'll be honest, like I like writing my newsletter, but I don't think that's gonna be my long-term thing. Like I'll probably continue doing newsletter. but I don't know if that will be the main thing for lore.com long term. Like I still feel like there's something bigger I could be doing with lore.com. And so not just an AI newsletter. So I am still wanting to use lore for something in my life before I die. I have a few ideas, but I'm not like really willing to talk about them yet. And they're just ideas. They're not like, oh, this is what I'm going to do. So it's definitely up in the air what I do with lore.com. People try to buy it from me all the time. I'm like, look, the amount of money I would want for it is so ridiculous that you'd be shocked to even talk about it. Like I'll talk to you if you're talking about like 30 million, but if it's like less than that, I don't even want to talk. And then most of those conversations just end. So and so that's kind of, I have no intention of selling it because like I'm okay financially, and it's like, for me, it's an amazing name that I would love to own. And I'm even slightly nostalgic about it because of just I started with Barry Osborne and stuff, and so. But in terms of the future with the podcast, I hope that we can become so I think what's going to happen, like our podcast is not gigantic, but it's definitely been growing like really fast. Like our chart's like this. I mean, so it's very, very steady growth on YouTube and audio. I think on YouTube in 7 months, I think we're already like top 3 in the category, I believe. Which is pretty good. I think HubSpot's going to be investing a lot more into the show. So I'm excited for that. And there's some other things we're working on that I can't really talk about yet. As this transition happens, to like the age of AI with AGI and ASI, I'm hoping, I can do as good of a service to humanity as possible using the podcast to help people, show them because it's going to be a scary time too, right? Like people's job, like a lot of people are going to lose their jobs, and a lot of things are going to change, and the way you work will have to change. And so to be a guide for as many people as possible is kind of my mission with the podcast, to like, okay, as this transition's happening, like explain to people, here's what's happening, and try to explain it to it before it happens, a little bit before too, right? So they're not totally shocked and caught off guard. But as the transition does happen to more like, to ASI, helping show people how they can use AI to make their life better and still contribute to the world, and how to deal with it. So that's kind of my mission with the podcast. And I think, I don't know if I'm going to be doing it in 10 years from now, but, definitely, 3 to 5 years we'll be doing it. And hopefully during that period, helping as many people as possible. ASI, like, what do I think about ASI and artificial superintelligence and like where things are going? I don't know. I have vague ideas of what it could mean, but I feel like, I am a human, and who knows, like maybe I'm, my intellect is obviously my intellect is limited, and I can't imagine every possible scenario. So I do my best to, imagine where things could be heading and try to position myself and my family to be ready for that. I think a lot of, I talk to my son about this stuff, which people think is kind of crazy, but I think it's a good thing to be doing. My son's 11. I talk to him about AI stuff all the time and explain to him like where things are going, and he already thinks about his future in his life and stuff about what it's going to mean for him. And I try to show it to him too, because when I first explained it to him, it was a little bit scary for him, and my parenting style though is that's better for him to build resilience, to be strong, and to actually understand the world you live in versus hiding, I think is better. And so I try to explain things to him, and at first he was a little bit scared, but then when I started showing him different things, he got so excited, right? Like we used Replic's AI agent and built a little website together, like a little League of Legends website thing. And he thought that was so cool. He's like, oh, I got Roblox, or he had Minecraft and League of Legends. And he had that on there, like a little guide website. And he was just blown away. And then brainstorming what to write in, we used ChatGPT's advanced voice mode. We were sitting and chatting with the AI to help figure out what to make. And that whole process was just blowing his mind now, and he started talking to me about kind of stuff he could do when he gets older using all of this. And so I think that's right now when I think about ASI, I literally just think about my son and how do I prepare him? And that's what I think about, honestly. And that's how I'm currently preparing him, is just making sure he understands what's possible and where things are headed, and making sure he's excited about it. Because I think he's going to be in a future where literally we're going to be able to dream up stuff with AI and then have robots help us build the stuff into the real world. That's the kind of future we're headed. And that's going to be so exciting. It's almost like a new frontier, right? when I was a kid, it was like, okay, you dream about all this stuff about going to the frontier, right? And going to these new places. Like imagine being, Christopher Columbus discovering America or whatever. Like how exciting that is, but like that hasn't really existed for us. But this does feel like a new frontier where like we're gonna be able to like reshape what Earth looks like and what other planets look like. And so I'm super excited about that potential.
Yeah. I also think it's a great way to expose to, your kids to technology and, hands-on and understand what's going to happen. And that's a great way.
Yeah, he loves it. So I highly suggest to other people to do that. And actually, that's one reason I think about doing my own YouTube is I might talk about more about that kind of stuff too, like daily life stuff, like how you can use AI, because that's, I think a lot of people are going to be really surprised, like how much things are going to change. And they're still thinking about like, okay, just the traditional education system. And then they're going to get a normal job in 10 years from now. And I was like, it's like, no, the world's going to be very different in 10 years. It's not going to look like that anymore. And so just trying to make sure he's more flexibly minded about these things and understands what's possible is super important. Everyone should be doing that for their kids.
Yeah, I totally agree with that. Yeah, I think so. And since our audience are like aspiring founders, builders, and writers, do you have some advice to them? I know you already shared a lot of advice, but if you add something,
for founders, I mean, now is the time to build. Like, if there's ever been a good time, like there's been different time periods where it was good to build startups. Like when I first got involved in Silicon Valley, I had read like Sarah Lacey's book talking about like Dig and all this stuff. And I had my own startup before that. And I was like, okay, cool. I'll go out to Silicon Valley. It sounds so exciting. Like reading this, reading her book. And there was a few periods that were really great for startups. Like there was like when the iPhone came out, that was great. When Facebook became huge, that was great. I had several friends who built, vast fortunes off of those platforms, right? Like I had a friend who made a fortune off of freaking Facebook apps, like stuff that seemed super, super, scammy and stuff like that. And like people made, people don't talk about this, but like everybody knows tons of people who made like tens of millions of dollars on these like stupid Facebook apps, right? There's tons of these people. And so that was cool, but like, and that was a great opportunity financially, but it wasn't that impactful. Now there's going to be an opportunity where it's actually impactful humanity, what you do. And it's going to be incredibly financially lucrative. Like the people who win in AI are going to, the top 10 billionaires or trillionaires, probably the trillionaires, the top 10 trillionaires in 10 to 20 years, they're all going to be people who did something interesting with AI. And so this is like the best time ever to be doing a startup, especially anything related to AI, because and be as ambitious as possible, I think too, right? Like be as ambitious as possible, especially if you're raising venture capital. Yeah, if you have an ambitious idea, raise a shit ton of venture capital and go for it. Like now is the time to do that. And if it doesn't work out, look, as long as you make a big splash and actually do something interesting and don't just freaking waste the money, as long as you actually do a good job and do something impactful, if it doesn't work out, there'll be other opportunities for you after that. So, so that's what I suggest to people. And also while you're doing it, don't spend too much time on X, but at the same time, also make sure you're being heard as well. Like the balance, right? Like make sure you get your work done in the day, but then also after that, share what you're doing and share, your thoughts on things and make sure you have a voice as well.
Oh, yeah, love it. Yeah, great advice. Thank you. Yeah. So this is the last question.
Okay.
And since Glasp is a platform where people share what they're reading, learning as the digital legacy. So we want to ask you this question. And so what is the legacy or impact do you want to leave behind for future generations? It's a big question.
What is the legacy I want to leave behind? Oh man. Geez, I mean, if I was being honest, I wish I was like Sam Altman and had created OpenAI. That's the kind of legacy I would have loved to have, had, to be quite honest with you. But as of now, like I don't really feel like I have to personally be remembered. Honestly, I don't really care too much about that. But I want to feel like on my deathbed that my son is set up in a good way for his future, and that humanity is set up, for a positive future. And so anything I can do, in that area, that's what I care about. So that's one reason I'll do the podcast, right? Like I think to help get people more optimistic about technology again, and like realizing like, yeah, we can do freaking amazing things. Like, don't be so pessimistic and negative about everything, and focus on, hey, screw this person and screw that person. Like, just, we can build awesome stuff together if we're always not fighting each other. And so that's kind of anything I can do to kind of push that message forward, even if that's like a small piece of my legacy. That's what I'm focused on. I'm not sure if I exactly answered your question. It's a hard question. Like, what legacy do you want to leave? But that's probably the best I have today.
Oh yeah, beautiful. Yeah, beautiful answer. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah. And thank you for joining today and sharing your insights and experience, everything with us. And thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. It's been awesome. Maybe you guys should come on the Next Wave podcast sometime.
Oh yeah. Yes. Happy to. Yeah, anytime. Yes.